All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the City of Tyler for Tuesday, March 5th, 2019. Our first item on the agenda is to call the roll.
Pamela Phoenix.
Here.
Jimmy Reed.
Here.
Beth Whitney. David Dobbs.
Here.
Felicity Reedy. Here. Blair Swaim.
Here.
Jeb Jones.
Here. The Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council. Any item approved today will be heard by the City Council at its regular meeting on Wednesday, March 27th, 2019, commencing at 9 a.m. If you received a notice for this meeting, you have also received a notice for the City Council meeting. Subdivision plats are approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission solely unless there is a request for a waiver of escrow fees or construction. Only the City Council makes financial decisions. If any item is denied, the applicant has 10 calendar days to file a written appeal with the Planning Department. The appeal will then be acted upon by the City Council. If you are here to speak for or against an item, when that item is called for review, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission should only be made from the podium. This will ensure that the comments will be picked up on the microphones and will be recorded as part of the official record. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes or less, although extensions of time may be granted by the chair upon request. The next work session will be held directly after the conclusion of this meeting and is open to the public. It will be held at the Tyler Development Center across the street at 423 West Ferguson in the large conference room. All right. Next item on our agenda is consideration of the minutes from previous meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Reed, a second from Ms. Phoenix to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next section we have on our agenda consists of tabled items. Is there a motion to remove these items from the table?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we remove the tabled items.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Reed, a second from Mr. Swaim to remove these items. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, the items are available for review. Kyle?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The first item here is a plat, Oak Hills Place final plat. It's an 18-lot subdivision located west of the northwest intersection of Elkton Trail and Oak Hill Boulevard. The purpose of the plat is to create 18 lots. This plat was on the table for a couple months to allow the applicant to submit, or allow more time for the applicant to submit HOA documentation for the private street that will serve all these lots. We have received that documentation, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
Any questions for city staff? Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item for or against?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve F18-107.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Phoenix, a second from Mr. Reed to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Next item is Z18-043. Kyle?
This is a zone change request from R1A Single Family Residential to AR Adaptive Reuse District. This is to allow for the continuation of the existing art instructional studio that takes place on the property. The surrounding properties are zoned R1A Single Family Residential, are developed with single family homes. This request would be consistent with the future land use guide because AR does allow for single family uses as well as a light office or light service use. AR is intended to allow for the rehab of existing historical homes or older homes. It also allows for the live-work arrangement in some of these older neighborhoods and allows residents to age in place, and also allow their services to be offered while they're in retirement. So that's why it's a single-family land use designation as well. This request has been on the table for a couple months as well. The applicant has worked, our understanding is, has worked with the other neighbors to finally fine tailor the amended deed restrictions to everybody's satisfaction. And so we did receive a number of emails and letters in favor of the request from the students and their parents that frequent Ms. Wheat's studio. This notice, or this request was noticed, or the public hearing was noticed in 3 forms. We do a publication in the paper as well as a mailed notice to neighbors within 200 feet. And also there's a yellow sign that's placed on the property. Of the letters that went out, we received 1 in opposition and 2 in favor of the request. The protest calculation is 8.31%, and the opposition was concerned about additional traffic in the neighborhood as well as privacy concerns. Staff and the applicant is here to discuss their operation and what services they provide and how they can be an asset to the neighborhood. Staff has reviewed this request and anticipates no significant impact on services and facilities, and recommends the approval of the zone change from R1A to AR.
All right, any questions for city staff?
Kyle, have you received a copy of recorded deed restriction changes and amendments or anything to that effect?
I believe we did before the meeting.
Okay.
But as far as we're concerned, we're looking at the zone change, the merits of the zone change request,
Okay.
and the land use, and not so much those details.
Perfect.
Any other questions? All right, I have several cards for this item. The first is from Ms. Linda Whitt. Ms. Whitt? Please state your name and address for the record.
Linda Whitt, 3615 Woodbine Boulevard in Tyler.
Great.
Happy Mardi Gras.
Happy morning.
I'm out of my element today. The art school we have gone through the deed restriction changes with all the neighbors, and have gotten that recorded for the second time. The first time it was not stringent enough, so we came back with a more precise wording that then has now been recorded again for the neighborhood. So I hope that will be sufficient. What I offer is my lifetime of experience as an artist and an art teacher. I am retired from teaching at All Saints. However, I'm not ready to hang up my hat, so to speak. And I do enjoy teaching these children and adults and some handicapped students. I think several are here today and hope to speak. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you for being here today, Ms. Whitt.
Thank you.
Next card I have is from Bob Breedlove. Bob?
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Breedlove, 1910 Stonegate Circle. My daughters go to school at Miss Wheat's art class. Well, I'm just here in support. Be happy to answer any questions, but I'm just here to support Miss Wheat.
All right. No question? Thanks, Bob. Next card I have is from Sharon Kennedy. Yeah, try to come on up as close as you can to the microphone. That'd be great. Kyle, can you? Yeah.
Well, y'all all look happy today. I didn't rehearse. I didn't think anyone would be here. I live right next to the left of Linda Wheat, who has the art school. So most of the traffic that comes to her house is in front of my house. Car doors slam, I hear them. The kids are outside playing, I hear them. It doesn't bother me in the least. Matter of fact, I kind of enjoy watching them. And I kind of like knowing that there are people that move around the neighborhood because it looks like a busy neighborhood, which I think would help prevent burglaries if someone came in and wanted to case the place. Oh, there's too many people over here. And I think she's doing a good deed for the children. And I wish that more kids had something to do in the afternoons when they get out of school, instead of just go home, get on video games, and take care of themselves. So, I think if anyone should be bothered by the traffic in the neighborhood, it should be me, because I'm her closest neighbor, and it doesn't affect me in any way. So, I'm all for the art school remaining.
Thank you, Ms.
That's all.
Kenny. No, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Next card I have is from Shirley McCain. Please state your name and address to the record.
Hi, I'm Shirley McCay. I'm at 11945 CR 182 Bullard in Tyler, Texas. Formerly used to live in Tyler, Texas, just recently moved. I'm here to talk today about the art school. And anyone who knows Ms. Whitt knows how great of a teacher she is. They know how much she cares for her students, and they know how much she helps them blossom and become the best they can be in all aspects. Anyone who knows her knows how truly amazing she is. So today I'd like to talk about why she should be allowed to run her studio where it is. But let's start with art. So why is it and why it's important? I'd like to touch quickly on an article from the Center for Online Education, which cites a 2002 report from the Art Education Partnership. This report revealed that school children exposed to drama, music, art, and dance are often more proficient at reading, writing, and math. And while school districts might be tempted to think that arts are frivolous, the report suggests otherwise. It looked at over 62 different studies from 100 researchers, spanning the range of fine arts from anywhere from dance to visual arts. And in 2002, it was at the time the first report of its kind to look at the impact of art on academic performances, and I'm sure that there's been many articles since. Using this data, researchers determined that students who received more arts in education did better on standardized testing, they did better on social skills, and were more motivated than those who had reduced or little access to art. Yet knowing this, many schools are letting fine arts take a back seat to their programs. They're either not encouraged or just little funding is put into them. So often as parents, that means we have to look outside of schools to find quality art programs for our children. And so let's say for a moment that you wanted to argue that fine arts doesn't do those things and that they don't help kids with schooling. Even then, there are merits within fine art on their own. Namely, it helps students improve visual analysis, learn from mistakes, be creative, make better critical judgments, and even learn to work with others. It helps them learn to take constructive criticism and express themselves. As we know, many teenagers on a daily basis, as well as children, have to deal with their ever-fluctuating emotions, their daily struggles, all the while not knowing how to process or express how they feel, as many suffer from depression and anxiety. These small art schools outside of school helps these children and teens by giving them the ability to express themselves, to cope with the difficult world around them and the troubles that they might express or feel as they come up in their life. So knowing all of this, it becomes even more important that children have access to these fine art programs outside of school. Miss Whitt's studio has given my daughter so much in regards to quality of mental health as well as quality of art. It has helped her process and express herself in ways that are healthy and makes her happy. Every week, I take her to the art studio. I pass several businesses, turn on to Woodbine, drop her off. I always find I have plenty of room to park without blocking driveways or mailboxes. She quickly hops out of the car, so I'm not parked very long, and runs into art class to get her day started. After she gets out, I even have plenty of room to go around any other cars that might be parked. The cars parked in this situation would be seemingly no different than a neighbor down the street who's having a party who can't quite fit all their guests into the driveway, so they have to park on the street. And it's only a short time when I pick her up that I'm there because she's quick to run back to the car to tell me everything she's done for the day. I take my daughter there knowing that she's doing something that is benefiting her creativity, her expression, and even her mental health. And I know this is the case for more than just her. I know many other students are in the same boat. They rely on these outside of school programs. And I feel Miss Wheat's studio is well suited, well equipped, and well located for her to be able to continue to offer these wonderful services to all of her students who want nothing more than to be able to express themselves through something that they love while having the best teacher they could ever ask for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McKay. The next card I have is for Ms. Anastasia McKay.
I'm Anastasia McKay. I live at 11945 CR 182 Bullard, Texas 75757. I'm 15 years old. I stand here today defending my art teacher. She would never do anything to trouble anyone on purpose. I've taken art class from Miss Whitt for about 2 years now, and I know she is very sweet. I learn a lot from her. She inspires others to do what they love and be who they are. She provides opportunities in my life that I didn't realize that were there and couldn't do or would be hard to do without her help. For example, we have provided art to be on display at the Tyler Rose Museum during the Rose Festival. We also have provided art to be sold at the 6x6 art fundraiser, which helps local artists. She's always looking for ways to help improve our skills and to help improve the art community. She patiently and diligently works with us to show us different ways we can help to express ourselves and our feelings. She helps us to work to become better artists and stronger individuals. I wish to go to college to become an art teacher, and I can only hope that one day I will be as good of a teacher as she is for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Next card I have is from Bart Hanigan. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And helper. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bart Hanigan. I live at 1403 Brandywine Drive, Tyler. And my kids take art with Miss Wheat. And because it's a corner lot, there is an excess amount of parking. I mean, we park on the side street there that's not Woodbine, that connects across. Quite often, there's just really low traffic area. I have nothing else to add that hasn't been said beautifully, so
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And for bringing your helper. Next card I have is for Sarah, is it Back? Sarah Back. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sarah Back, and my address is 3701 Pine Bluff Circle, Tyler, Texas, 75707. And, you know, I could talk a long time about Miss Wheat, what she gives the kids regarding art, and then personally being a role model to my children. But I will say, I will add one thing about what she does for art, because you're already hearing it. She knows more, she is more educated than any art teacher. I happen to like art. I've taken a lot of art classes when I was in college. Our school that we use, I help facilitate art for a certain section each year. And anytime I ask her a question about art, she has a library that rivals any library of art with notes, highlights, papers in it. So my kids can't get that. There's nowhere else they can get that. So she's an amazing art teacher. I know that doesn't concern you as much as the traffic issue, so that's really what I wanted to address. And I don't know if you are all familiar with this area, but there are 2 lanes of traffic on each side. So one side has 2, so there's more area to move than there are in average neighborhoods. We have been taking art with Miss Whitt for 2 years, summers and once a week during the school year. And, you know, I've racked my brain. How many times have I been inconvenienced picking up and dropping off that there is another car that needs to get by, or somebody's waiting? And literally, I can think of one time that I had to wait because someone, one time in 2.5 years 2 years that I can think of something like that happening. So as far as traffic goes, you know, I have not seen a problem. And then as far as the restrictions in the neighborhood go, my understanding is that this neighborhood already allows swim lessons and music lessons. So, you know, there are already people in this neighborhood that are providing lessons. This isn't that far, particularly from the swim classes we've taken. You know, everybody parked at one time, lots of people there for a long time. It's just not, you know, people are dropping off and picking up. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for being here, Ms. Back. Next card I have is from Ileana Backin.
She wasn't anticipating having to say her address first.
Okay.
My name is Ileana Backin, and my address is 3701 Pine Bluff Circle. And good afternoon. I am a student of Mrs. Whitt for 2 years, attending both summer camps and weekly classes. I enjoy the classes. One of the art activities I enjoy is plaster painting. I also like to make colors. One of the tricks to painting and coloring is not to make everything the same color, because when you look at nature, it's not all greens and browns. Same goes for everything else. I'm a homeschooler, and Mrs. Whitt is the only art teacher I have. If you do not allow Mrs. Whitt to teach art in her home, where would you recommend I go for art education?
Thank you, Ms. Back. Next card I have is from Ronan Backin.
Good afternoon, my name is Ronan Backin. My address is 3701 Pine Bluff Circle. And I'm here today to support our art teacher, Miss Whitt. We've learned so many amazing things from her. Like, for example, before I went lessons with her, I couldn't draw a 3D room or a 3D shaded ball either. Now that I've done it, I can do them without thinking about it. We've also been exposed to a wide range of artists. For example, some of them were Van Gogh, Picasso, and Keith Haring. I enjoy art classes, and besides, art is Miss Whitt's passion and livelihood. Would you like it if someone took that away from you?
Thank you, Ronan. Okay, those are all the cards I have for this item. Is there anyone else here? Yes. If you need to speak, you need to come to the microphone, please. Please just state your name and address for the record.
Okay, hi, I'm Rebecca Dunn. I live at 2930 Rockbridge Road, Tyler, Texas. I've been studying with Miss Whitt for 2 years now, and she has been an absolutely wonderful teacher. Right now, we've been currently learning a bit. Maybe about 2 weeks ago, we started learning about Gustav Klimt. He's this artist who has created new art techniques. We learned pointillism and many other countless ways to express yourself in art. I have to say that fine art is a thing, or music, that I don't really see in schools now. We have very few schools who even invest in music, art, programs like that, unless it's like for band. And there's not really an option we really have, unless it's for like self-tutoring or any other way you can think of to learn fine art like this. And I'm sorry, I just never really expected before. I'm just saying that she has been an absolutely wonderful blessing on us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Yes, ma'am. If you want to come to the microphone.
I don't know if I can either just give it to her or
She can pass it around.
Yeah, you can certainly submit it if you'd like.
I'll be there.
Okay, that'd be great. Please just state your name and address to the record.
Yes, Julia Perry. I live at 15970 Highway 271, Tyler, 75708. And this is addressed to the City Council. What could be more welcome than budding artists sketching the beauty of springtime? Just yards away from the Rose City-sponsored art wall, you can see future artists in the making. Nationally renowned artist Miss Linda Whitt has been actively nurturing the visual arts in Tyler students of all ages for many years. Recently, having taught middle school at All Saints Episcopal School, she is now bringing artistic vision to impressionable minds of all. Artistic vision is not only admirable, but altruistic. Just as children and adults who play sports or music, acquiring appreciation for their physical and auditory gifts, artistic appreciation can open the door to a lifelong passion. Artistic visionary, positive role model, and educator, Ms. Whitt is not only a positive influence in the neighborhood, but an asset to the community as a whole. As we celebrate and appreciate women on March 9th, Ms. Whitt's artistic influence should be celebrated and appreciated as well in Tyler. Most sincerely.
Thank you, Ms. Perry, for being here. Yes, please.
See if this is it's probably not gonna come down to me, so I'm gonna just hold it. Hey, so I'm Ashley Barnes, and my son is Braden Barnes right here, and we live on 2909 Crestview Street in Tyler. These are also the Russells. Carrie couldn't be here, and they live in Tyler also. Can you hear me? Did it go off? Can you hear me? Okay. And we just wanted to come. Obviously, so many people have said so many amazing things. I don't even know if I need to follow with how amazing it is. I know every one of these kids behind me have been taking from her for 2 years. And just to show our support and advocate for her, you don't need to hear her character. You have heard her character. It is wonderful. This isn't a testimony on that. What it is, as you can see, there's many kids behind me, and there's only 2 parents that shuttle these kids there, and both of us actually pull into her driveway. We don't block the area. As you can see, that corner lot, she's got a lot of space, and I know coming and going, there are so many parents that just drop off very quickly. These kids have sat in this room for how long now, and they're very quiet. You haven't heard anyone, out of control or anything. She's got very disciplined students, and we homeschool, and the biggest value that I see is we can't get this anywhere else. If we could, I don't think we would choose somewhere else at all, but we can't go anywhere else to get this. And so just to be able to influence our children in the way that she has is very impactful, and we're just here to support her and everything that she does. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Y'all want to say anything? They're just shy.
Outstanding. All right, do we have any suggestions from?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. Can I address a comment to Ms. Wheat?
Sure.
Ms. Wheat? Ms. Wheat? I just want you to know I'm relatively new to this board, but I don't know that I've ever seen anybody work harder on a zone change than you have. It says a lot about what kind of teacher you must be. I can't be completely biased on this because my mother was an art teacher, but can we move to approve this already?
Yes, please.
Can
Mr. Chairman, I move.
Can I make a comment
Sure.
first? I definitely want to commend you, Ms. Weed, on all that you're doing and being an asset to that neighborhood. And you can tell by the support that you're definitely an asset. Two of the issues that I've seen raised in the paperwork is privacy and traffic. By the size of the lot, it seems like privacy wouldn't be an issue, and Ms. Kennedy has testified that she isn't disturbed and she's right next door to you, as well as the other testimonies pertaining to not having any parking issue or being a hazard to traffic. And I don't see anything that would hinder moving forward with this, except if you don't give me some of those beads that you have on, because you know I'm from New Orleans and we are not at home.
Mr. Dobbs.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Z18043.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Dobbs, a second from Ms. Phoenix to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Now, you're all welcome to stay, however.
Yes, you are the woman. You are the woman.
We'll take a quick 5-minute break.
You are the woman. Thank you, baby.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you. Hey, he's up. Can you take it off?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't. I think we'll take it off.
Oh, thank you though. Thank you. Congratulations.
There we go.
That was fun.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
I feel like we should
It is empty.
play Mr. Holland's Opus after this and the next thing.
They love. She is really offering. She is really offering a lot to that community. I wish she was in my neighborhood. I'd have my grandson take your class.
Oh, my gosh.
I want to go take some art lessons.
And since we're empty now.
No bees, Jimmy.
All right, we'll get back to our regular agenda. We are now in the zoning section of the agenda. The one item in the zoning section for today is Z19-002, ZB3 properties.
This is a zone change request from PCD, Planned Commercial District, to C2, General Commercial District. The applicant is requesting the zone change to allow for additional commercial uses, as well as to allow for the flexibility in developing the property. The existing PCD zoning has a site plan that was approved last December or so. It was just within a few months. The surrounding properties are zoned M1 light industrial and C1 light commercial to the south of Earl Campbell Parkway. The properties to the north are developed with a mixture of industrial properties as well as True Vine Brewery, and the properties to the south are currently undeveloped. This request is consistent with the future land use guide, which identifies this area as general commercial. This property was reclassified as general commercial with the last zone change. As you can see, surrounding that is the future land use designation is business park, and so this request will allow for retail businesses, so that could also fit within that as well. You see this property is currently undeveloped, and the applicant again initially planned to do retail in I think 4 to 5 buildings or so. And so since that time they've looked at it and wanted more flexibility, so they don't have to stick by this that site plan. And there are some uses that they are looking at that would require C2 zoning, and they can discuss that with you. Staff has looked at the request. We did notify neighbors through the 3 forms of public notice here notification. And of that, we received a number of letters in opposition from surrounding property owners with the total protest calculation of 46.22%. Some of the neighbors were concerned, neighboring property owners were concerned with how C2 does allow for assisted living and some commercial living, things like that. Last time I went through, the initial request was for some loft apartments with a PMXD, and so the neighbors were opposed to that as well. So, and then some of the other concerns were related to just the level of development density that can be allowed with C2. The site plan limited the property to one layout that showed just a few buildings and established parking calculations and building square footages without the PCD site plan. That's all that's not as concrete as it currently is, and so there's some opposition concerned with the lack of assurance on how it's going to be developed. So with the protest calculation exceeding 20%, a favorable vote of 3/4 of the city council will be required to approve this item. Staff has reviewed the request and anticipates no significant impact on services or facilities by the proposed rezoning, and staff recommends approval of the zone change from PCD to C2.
Thanks, Kyle. Any questions for city staff?
Kyle, is there any use that they could be granted that wouldn't include some type of commercial living? Like assisted living or whatever else that the...
Yeah, well, I don't think that's any of their, I don't think they're planning on doing anything with that.
But it seems like that's what the protesters are believing.
Well, I think the opposition is with all the uses in C2.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
And,
What do you understand the main concern to be?
Well, I'm just, I just relayed what we received from. So I think some of the concerns are the allowable uses in C2, and then and there are neighbors that have that did return notices to us. They are present, so they can discuss their concerns further. But also, just when it was approved last time, there was a site plan. It was more definite in terms of how it's going to be laid out. Mm-hmm. Now it's not like that, so I think that's another concern.
And the applicant hasn't advised what they're going to be utilizing it for?
They did list a number of potential tenants. I don't know if that's still current. The one that did require the C2 designation from the list that we had was for a tattoo artist to be on the property. And that does require C2. It's not allowed in PCD.
Is a tattoo artist allowed in any other zoning district?
C2, M1, and M2.
C2, C2, M1,
But
and M2.
it's not allowed in PCD, or it's not allowed in the PCD that was approved?
It's not allowed in PCD
In any
at all.
PCD?
Right,
Okay, regardless. Okay.
right.
And can you point to where the brewery is located on here?
It's just to the
It's right there.
northeast.
Where the M2,
Here, let
right
me
there?
go back to
Okay,
it.
so it's right next to it. Okay.
Yeah, you can't see it on here, but it's to the northeast there.
Okay.
Would you just list a few of the other C2 uses that are potential? It's outdoor
Yeah,
storage
so
of equipment, things
yeah,
like
so
that?
the difference between C1 and the PCD was pretty much set up for a C1 is the outdoor display of merchandise and storage. And so C2 allows for car lots, allows for office warehouse, developments, tattoo parlors or tattoo studios as well.
Are those allowable uses in M1 and M2 as well?
They are.
They are? Okay. Some of the, but some of the uses, I guess I'm just trying to delineate the difference between what they're proposing as C2 and then going back to M1 or M2.
Well, M1 restricts a lot of like food businesses, so restaurants, coffee shops, things like that. And so my understanding is that the kind of the theme of this spot right here is for a mixture of food and entertainment and things like that. And so the M1 restricts pretty much the food part of it. And so that's where it can get a little tricky on having that mix right there.
Okay.
And that's what they wanted the last time, M1?
Well, they did PCD for...
Yeah, I remember.
But they want PMX.
But they wanted PMXD1.
PMXD1 was to have some residential component to it, and they decided not to go that way. And so the current zoning allows for a lot of the things they want to do except for one, as last time I spoke to them.
Have there been any other uses besides a tattoo artist that they said they'd like to use that would require C2?
That requires C2? No, not that I saw.
And I recall one of the individuals in opposition said something about it would hinder their right-of-way or their access to their property.
Yeah, that did come from one of the neighbors, and my understanding is that may be related to the scale of the development. So before it was, they showed how many buildings they would have. Now they're not showing that. So, if they're going to share access between the properties, that they're concerned about how much they're sharing that, I guess.
And a brewery is sitting right behind them, so is that going to hinder their access as well?
No.
If they already have that straight shoot to Earl Campbell?
They have that, and they may have one on the north side as well.
I apologize. Explain to me how the changing of the zoning would affect someone's access to their property. I'm not following that.
Well, again, that was a concern of a neighbor, and I believe they are here if they want to discuss that further, but I think it gets down to C2 may allow for a bunch of traffic, and what they had before was really limiting how much traffic they were going to have.
The traffic.
Wasn't so much physical access, it's practical access.
Right. Yeah, it's not physical access.
Like if they put an art studio or something like that in there.
Yeah. All right, do we have a representative, the applicant or a representative from the applicant here? Can you please come to the podium, sir? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Jim Loudon, 4110 Briarwood.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you address some of the concerns? I guess you've heard some of the questions from the commission. Can you address some of those concerns?
Can I have about 20 minutes to go round up about 30 kids? Following that, it's going to be tough. So I think it's it can get convoluted when you start going M1 PCD. We started with, it was M1 when we started. Then we went to a PXMD1. And well, can't have that, can't do this, can't do, okay, well, we were recommended, what about a PCD? Okay, well, let's do that. We'll do a planned community or commercial development. And then as these, as far as True Vine Brewery, True Vine is right behind it, and I am part owner of True Vine. And so as we have started into this development, the tenants that are, you know, that come to me and say, I'd love to have a space over there, I'd love to do this, and, you know, 50% of them are real, but 100% of them are also real in the sense 50% may be a true tenant, but 100% of them all want to be a tenant. And so as we've looked at this PCD, you know, zoning, it's clear in a C2, and not that we don't mind going downtown and spending more money to do something different all the time, because everything's still going to be permitted, all permitted buildings. COs will ask for certificate of occupancies for each new tenant space. But it gives us, C2 is nothing more than flexibility. PCD, we've had to show, I need a building here, building there, building there, and building there. And we spend good money for our parking lot and for the engineering, not to take anything from the engineering part of it, but we won't change any of the parking lot structures, but we may go from 4 buildings to 6, or it might be 8, or it might be adjoining 9 buildings in there. So what we're finding is a person really can't come in and rent 2,000 square feet and put a big box retail store in there. We don't really want them, truthfully. Our goal is to have a community-based development that we can do everything from making cedar tables to art. I mean, I'm listening to all these kids. I have all these tenants coming to me is this group in about 15 years, you know, with all their passions and their desires. So, so the C2 is simply is if we want to display art out front, if I want to build a, you know, real neat niche style building that an artist can rent, or maybe 2 of them, you know, they'll be renting spaces 300 square feet or 400 square feet. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what you'll see, if you can get a glimpse from behind my head through my vision, and our vision, is a community that you can walk through. You can pull up, park, and go see 6 different businesses. Or, you know, you might go see art here, you might see a cabinet maker here, and so regardless of who the tenant may be, and a tattoo guy, right? So we, a gentleman here in Tyler that, or he's actually out of town, he's a tattoo artist. In our people group, in today's age, a tattoo is art. It's not like it used to be when a sailor came off a ship and got a tattoo of mom on one side and a, you know, anchor on the other, you know, or an arm sleeve. So I'd love to have him in there, you know. But that's really not the point of this. I can simply put him on, I own the property right beside me. I can put him over there. He'd be 300 feet away or 100 feet away. The whole point is so that every time I sit there at my desk, we've probably looked at 1,000 pictures in the last 4 days. Should it be this style building, this style building? Should we shrink it to this? That I don't have to stop and go, wait a minute, okay, we can't do that, because if we do that, before we can do that, before we can move forward, we've got to go down and, you know, remove this building here, and because we're in a PCD zone. So, as you can tell, I could go on, and I think the simple part of it all is flexibility, a little more fluid. We're not going to put anything in there that's going to be obtrusive to the neighborhood. I got a concrete guy behind me that's, you know, as noisy as can be, and, you know, we've got truck traffic out on Earl Campbell. It's all about building this community. And, you know, right now, I think that we're probably one of the most energized thing up Earl Campbell. And our, you know, our friend Tyler Economic Development Council thinks so highly of that they cleared the property across the street and hope to generate some energy from that. So, anyway, how can I answer questions?
Ileana, I had a question specifically. It appears that all of your uses would be allowable in M1 and M2, which is what all the surrounding zoning is, but the only trigger is food. And so do you have any reason?
I think it's probably several things that were not in M1.
Okay.
That's why we were led away from it early on.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'd still be there.
Right. That's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah. C2, I think, is the most conclusive. Would that be true to say?
But you understand that the issue is the residential portion in regards to your neighbors and their operations. And, you know, we talked about that,
Sure,
that last
sure,
time.
Sure. Well, and we're more than happy not, I mean, you asked a great question. Is there a way that you can sign something or, you know, not have that part of this property, you know, resident? We're fine. We're very fine with it. I just don't want to be, as we've looked through it, I'll take your recommendations 100%. If we can do what we'd like to do there, then I'd absolutely honor recommendations.
So from my understanding, you kind of want to be able to lay out something like a little mini outlet. So folks park and just walk around all day.
Mm-hmm. Can I introduce Crystal?
Please. Sure.
Hi, I'm Crystal Bryce.
She does my legwork for me, so she could probably answer some of these a little more intelligent as far as zoning goes. Yes, ma'am. You know, Waco did it with the refinery. You know, of course, they made, you know, big hits with TV show with what they did over there. It's something different for Tyler that they, you know, if you think about it, you can go out to the, you know, the big malls and that type of thing, but there's really not a community that's got 15, 20 businesses that you can go over on Saturday, you can get, you know, pastries here, you can walk and see, I say street art, meaning that they can come out and display their art out front, you know, have the farmer's market has approached us to using our site because they've seen the parking and they know that what we do on Saturdays to possibly move over to us, and I'm not taking it from anybody, and you know, but if they want to come, then great. So we'd have the opportunity to have the market on Saturday over there. So,
And I might be wrong here, but I don't think residential use is allowed in C2. So I don't know how that's a concern.
There are some specified uses.
Okay.
Yeah, we're calling it commercial living, so like hotels and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, right, and assisted living, skilled nursing. It's more of that kind of multi-residential type of developments.
Are they in PCD too?
They are, let's see, yes, they are allowed in PCD.
So they're already there now.
Well, they're not there now because they're restricted by the plan. So when you have PCD, you're limited to your site plan.
Yes.
So,
Correct.
Mr. Lamb, one of my concerns is that it almost feels like a little bit of scope creep here. It went from being a brewery to what is really a restaurant and entertainment venue now. And then, you know, it keeps going more towards a very dense type of use in terms of just consumers showing up in an industrial park. And, you know, there are big trucks that are there. There is a concrete plant that is right there. And that's not normally where you put, you know, things for outdoor entertainment next to a concrete plant. And so, now I've been there, I love it, okay? We've enjoyed it. So I want to commend you on what you've created. But I do see that there's some issues with, you know, as we keep, you know, there was an original plan, and it seemed like there was some opposition, there was an agreement, and that's how we came up with PCD. Mm-hmm. And so now we're going back and changing it again. And so I'm just, I feel like there was an agreement that was reached, and now we're coming back to the table again. And I need to know why it was so compelling that you needed to basically go against what that agreement was the first time we looked at this.
And again, great question. I think it's more, as I said, if you tell me I can go from 4 buildings to 6 or 9, you know, without any problems whatsoever, you know, then that's a game changer. You know, every time, and I'm still not there. We've got Studio B's underway, that's been permitted, so that building's taken off. We're going to go from 1 to 4. We've got tens of thousands of dollars in architect because it keeps changing. The building is this, it's this, it's this, it's this, but we're keeping it on that same little footprint.
So have you explored site plan amendments before?
No.
Okay.
I'm not.
Has the planning zone, has the staff talked to you about site plan amendments? Okay. Can we
I don't-
speak to that?
Yes, we can speak to that.
I think I have my own coffee cup down there, so.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's never, at least with me, has come up. It's really loud. Really, the one time that we, you know, it's really just been, you know, can we do this use? And, you know, even site plan amendment wouldn't allow that use.
Okay.
So, I mean, yes, it's true that if you want to change the site plans, change the layout, that's something that would come back here potentially. I mean, if it's a minor change, it could be done, you know, administratively. But if that's the question, can it change? The answer is yes, but it would have to come back through this process. So.
And, you know, and yeah, I feel the same way. That, you know, the last place I want to be is back here. I just had, you know, we still don't completely, you know, we're further now than we've ever been, of course, understanding what this community is going to be like, or, you know, who we can potentially get in there. And so it's changed. It's, you know, as a builder, you know, I build a lot of spec buildings in town, you know, I can run and just go build a building and say, come rent it, you know. This one we're just doing different. You know, I want to get it right. I want it to be a destination location in town. You know, when you head downtown to the chamber and you pick up, yeah, by the way, you've got to hit, you know, whatever the name we end up calling it, Honor O'Campbell, you've got to go down there and see what's going on down there. So, I understand what you're saying.
Question. Chad, when you said that we had an agreement pertaining to what would be there, and it seems as though a lot of consumers are being brought in with this plan. Are you talking about the plan with the brewery?
Well, there are already a lot of consumers.
The brewery is already there, and
Yeah.
consumers are going there.
Yeah.
Okay, but everything around is industrial, because you said that, what, a concrete?
Right. Yeah, the concrete
Okay.
plant's just north of there.
And then we have
I guess,
Centene and
yeah, when I talk
St.
about the agreement, it wasn't necessarily with
Yeah, I know
us,
with
it was,
us.
you know,
I know,
with
just-
the neighbors. And so
Yeah.
that was my question.
So the agreement was that he would look at getting a use that wouldn't expose consumers coming consistently to the property?
No. It was basically the PCD that we did approve. So the PCD plan that's there, that is approved, that was within the last year, right?
Right, and the initial request was for mixed use to allow for residential, and that was the main opposition.
And I remember we denied that one.
So the applicant eliminated that from the request, and so that's whenever it went to a planned district with the C1 commercial uses within that district.
Okay.
And it also a site plan, and I think that is one of the main challenges that the applicant is having, is that now he has the site plan that is approved with the associated ordinance, and it looks like he is desiring more flexibility, so he's trying to ask if he can go back to a straight zoning that could allow that flexibility.
Which would mean the site plan would have to be changed. It would
It'd be
changed.
eliminated.
Would
Wouldn't have a site
It wouldn't
plan.
be applicable.
Right.
Okay, so we would be looking at, okay, and you're talking about trying to do the mini outlet in an industrial area.
can I just add a little bit of, maybe I can clarify a
Sure.
little bit? So some of the history of this is, one of the things that got us looking for to change the zoning was that we wanted to have a coffee shop. And so we started down that path, and we were trying to figure out what zoning would work best for us, and we had some advisors. And I thank you for calling that out, because it does kind of look like a bait and switch. That's actually my fault, because I probably didn't do my research well enough. So we were advised to switch from, because of the residential issues, to switch to PCD. And we just kind of thought, okay, that's what we do. So if we had taken more time, I maybe would have gotten to the point where I realized, hey, you know, this is going to kind of tie our hands a little bit. Maybe there's a better route. So that one's on me. Jim's been very gracious and kind to let me keep my job, but that's probably mostly why we're here today. So it does look kind of shady, but it's just an oversight.
Am I hearing you correctly? Because you switched to PCD, you kind of got prematurely pinned to a site plan?
Mm-hmm.
Now, other than the flexibility on the site plan, moving the buildings around, are there uses that you seek on the property that are new, that you have to go to this new zoning to do?
There's a little bit of flexibility. Of course, you know, you heard the term tattoo, you know, we've got him, he doesn't have to be here. That's, I mean, one guy out of 20 does not change what I'm doing there
Is
at all.
there anything else that you're planning on doing that you would have to go to this new zoning to
There's
do?
more outside.
There's piece, from what I can understand from printing, you know, this off and reading it like in bed every night.
Right.
Most of the PCD and C2 allowances are the same, most of them. I think there's just like a few that are different. So I think that would be, things are pretty fluid with us, and so it just seems like it'd be very difficult to come back and forth every time we want to change a little bit.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, but knowing with the amount of opposition percentage-wise, if you were able to stay with the PCD, you know, I do understand that part of development is you talk to more people, you get more ideas, and you change it. But if you're able to commit to, and more buildings are allowed and the site plan's approving, at some point you got to say, this is what we're doing. And so it seems like if that can be achieved, if you're happy going from, because right now, were there 5 buildings that have been approved on the site, or? 4. So if that can go to 6 or more, depending on how that's laid out. Really, besides the tattoo artist, you may have to let a few more people go by that don't fit, but, I mean, is that a solution? Because I think the opposition is just strong percentage-wise and maybe hard to overcome. So if you can find a happy medium of going that route, that seems like the best way for you to have the most success.
Because PCD doesn't allow food, right?
It doesn't allow for a tattoo studio.
Is that something that could be addressed with a special use permit?
Well, the PCD just simply doesn't allow for it at all. And so the ordinance, the city ordinance would actually have to be amended and approved
No,
in order to even open the door.
I would just move him across the street. I just put him on my other property. So that's done. That's not a concern of mine at all. It's, yes, I agree. By the time at the end of the day, we gotta get going. We gotta stop looking at pictures. I think the more I look at drawings and pictures, we did just today. We looked back 6 months ago, and well, we're right back where we started from, what we picked out over the weekend. So, yeah, we've got to get going. And I think our site plan as a whole isn't going to change much. It can't. The way that we save certain trees purposely, and that's the whole thing about this. What we've learned is we can put smaller, keep the trees, you know. Parking lot's going to stay the same. I'm already getting ready to pour 40 spots. Tomorrow morning, we've got, you know, we're pouring that whole front section. So as far as, you know, where that, I don't know where the drawing went, but like on the Atwood side, they're never getting there. I mean, you're not coming to my property because it's going to be built. And so that won't change. It's just going to change the way we lay all these buildings out across there.
Well, would that be the solution, to move the tattoo guy across the street and then keep your PCD, and you'll be able to meet the needs of the folks that are coming to you?
It is, yes, ma'am.
And
it
just
is.
amend your site plan?
I would just need to keep going back and keep amending.
That sounds like your
the-
solution.
I think do we come back here every time we amend the PCD plan?
I have a question for Kyle, real quick. Kyle, the PCD was originally approved with C1 restrictions. Is that correct?
My understanding, yeah, it
Okay.
was.
And so if we kept PCD and amended it to C2 restrictions, not including any what we're calling commercial living, could we achieve all of our goals?
Except for the tattoo parlor.
No, tattoo parlor would be allowed in the C2. Is that correct?
I'm hearing that PCD
yeah,
is not
no.
allowed, period.
Oh, it wouldn't allow the zoning classification?
Yeah, it has to be something allowed in PCD.
Within
as
PCD?
well, right.
Okay, yeah. So C1 and PCD, they mirror each other?
More or less.
More or less?
The only
Okay.
difference is there's got to be an approved site plan.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
believe that's
So we
the
can't
only thing.
get there from here with the current?
No, we couldn't you couldn't have something that's not allowed in PCD, but allowed in different districts.
With a different restriction?
Right.
Okay.
It's like you couldn't put a cement plant in PCD because it's not allowed in PCD.
Exactly,
Right.
okay, all right.
Or a single family, so,
Okay.
for detached home. I mean, yeah, if the C2, maybe not all C2 uses, or whatever would also be allowed in PCD.
Mhm.
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of the discrepancies there, but, if it's described that way, PCD, whatever's allowed in C2 and PCD can be allowed.
Okay.
But that may come with a larger proposal with maybe 6 buildings, or, if the intent is still to stay with, a site plan,
Mhm.
then that might be an option too.
Okay.
And what does staff suggest again?
Approval.
Staff suggested approval?
All right, we do have another card. Any other questions?
They'll stick around for, after we hear the opposition, you guys can
Yes,
come back
yep.
up here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, I do have a card from Mr. Tom Mullins. Tom?
This looks very contentious.
Yeah.
Was that the equivalent of boxers going out to the middle of the ring and hitting gloves?
Hey, I'm a big fan of Jim Loudon. My name is Tom Mullins. I'm representing the Tyler Economic Development Council. We own property around this development. Our office address is 315 North Broadway, downtown Tyler. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, city staff, Mr. Chairman, I think you hit it a few minutes ago. We reached a compromise last fall. I think it was in October when we were here in front of you. From the beginning, the use of that property for the production and distribution of microbrewery products is consistent with the M1 zoning that's out there. We didn't have a problem with that. We started to be concerned, though, when we saw the desire to put residential there. And so we objected to that, as did the other neighbors, Atwood's Distribution and Contractor Supply. And incidentally, they also object to this new change. But we thought we'd reached a reasonable compromise. Not only the microbrewery processing, but also some of the other food and retail that you typically don't find in a residential area. But we think Jim Loudon's proposal here and his development is creative. And we're trying to develop that corridor for high-end jobs, and I'll give you some examples. Commissioner Phoenix, I think you mentioned Centene and Fresenius a little further west towards the Loop. Those are medical-related companies. Fresenius is close to 250 employees, on their way to 500. Centene is now over 300, almost 350 employees. We think it's great for employees in those kind of companies to be able to go down Earl Campbell, get lunch, go there afterwards, go on the weekends with families and friends and enjoying the entertainment. We think that's a great concept. We objected to the new proposal, the C2 proposal, when we looked at what it allowed. It opens up the door to just about everything. And initially, we were told that the PCD wouldn't work for a restaurant. Well, we looked at the zoning list, and for a coffee shop. We looked at the zoning, and it's in the PCD. It is allowed. Then we found out that a tattoo parlor or artist may be allowed to come into the zoning, and that raised some concerns for us. And then we looked more closely at other C2, and this is a concern. I don't think Jim Loudon has any plans to do any of these other things that can be done in C2. His concept is fairly limited, but developers are known from time to time to develop a site and get it occupied and then flip it for some new ownership. Well, once we go down the C2 track, we've lost control of what else can go in there. And just, Commissioner Reedy, to further answer one of the questions you had, what else is allowed in C2 that raised the flag for us? Bail bonds shop, RV park, car lots, manufactured home sales, tattoo studio we've talked about, nursing facilities, group homes. We just don't think that type of C2 activity is compatible with what Jim wants to do or what we want along that corridor. So we're here today to say that we don't support the C2 zoning change. We support Jim's project as initially conceived. We think it's a good thing to have the PCD status because it does require the developer to come to the city and explain at each step what they're going to be doing, what they're going to be investing in, make sure it's consistent. That's all we're asking for. So we've kind of had an interesting trip. I think we first started talking to Jim about expanding. In fact, we sold him property there so he could expand his footprint, have more parking, build more buildings, with the understanding that it would be a PCD designation. We feel that that was a reasonable compromise. We were happy to do it. We were happy to convince the other neighbors around there to accept that, and that's where we stand. We're just not ready to support a wide-open C2 designation.
Any questions for Mr. Mullins?
Mr. Mullins, you put in your protest talking specifically about driveway locations on your remaining property. Can you expand on that a little bit further?
From our understanding, the C2 designation could restrict driveway access. And we negotiated as part of the land sale with Jim Loudon an easement that wouldn't restrict access off Earl Campbell for future sales in the surrounding property that we control.
Okay.
So there's an easement there that to come across his property. Okay.
That's right.
For property that would be to the north, I guess further down his
well,
drive?
not to the north, no, to the east.
To the east.
Primarily to the east. That's about a 67-acre tract that we control still.
Okay.
And this property is west and north of that 67 acres.
Okay.
I've got a question, Tom. If he does an amended site plan and changes the number of buildings under the PCD, is that something you're going to oppose?
No, not at all. We just want to be consistent with what's allowed in PCD. Again, we felt that was a reasonable compromise.
Are you aware of any other usage other than proposed usage other than a tattoo parlor?
Not this week.
Got it.
It's changed.
I understand.
It's been fluid, let me just say.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Mullins? No. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Loudon? Is there anyone else, just just to make sure, is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item, for or against? Okay, Mr. Loudon, if you want to come back up.
The easement you asked about is
Yes.
going the other way. It's not on this piece of property. Actually, the way we give it, can you pull that picture up? Oh, yeah. Can they see that? Yeah. Yeah, so it goes to the right. If you can see your little green piece, it doesn't go into the property to the left, it goes to the right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's through that new piece. So you come in the driveway and there's 30 feet of it or so, and it goes 20, 30 feet, and then it goes to the right on that easement. So,
Okay.
I think it's, consistency is there. I think everything you see in PCD is in C2, other than the two things we've mentioned over and over again. So they're already there. It just goes back to being the developer and the guy that's got to make this thing happen. I would like the restraints taken off a little bit so that we can get going, and if we decide to make like I say, a different style building, or put it like this, or put it there, then we can just keep moving forward. Construction today is, as well as you guys all see it in town, when you're ready to go, and you finally make a decision, and your subs are there, man, you gotta go. You gotta grab them when you can grab them, and you gotta get it going. Or it could stretch out to a year project. So, I'm encouraged. I appreciate you guys for taking the time. I know it's been a long day, but.
Well, Mr. Lyon, I think you certainly, your track record is very good. I think the concern is what happens when you don't own it anymore, and the zoning is there and allows for all the flexibility that we've talked about. Regardless of what your intent is, it's kind of what's going to be there after the fact. So.
Yeah, Mr. Loudon, it sounds like that owning the adjacent property, that you can achieve your goals without the zoning change, just about, other than the caveat that you would need to come back if you change your site plan. Your tattoo artist, like you said, can go across the road, and the way that it sits right now, you can. It's restricted to no residential commercial living uses.
Without permission, or without.
Which is your neighbor's opposition.
Right.
So, okay.
Commission, I'd like to just mention another potential option for Mr. Loudon. He did speak to, having flexibility with essentially the dimensional standards, because he desires to add 2 additional buildings. And he's constrained by the site plan that was proposed and approved. And so he perhaps, if he doesn't have a solid idea of exactly what the layout is going to be, he could have a PCD with a written narrative. And that written narrative could very much mirror what was proposed to the neighbors as far as the setbacks and whatnot, but it could allow you the flexibility to add additional buildings, but still in keeping with what was already presented to the neighborhood as far as the uses and those other concerns that were there.
Because the PCD narrative then would restrict all those things that were objectionable
Exactly.
before.
Right.
But then give the flexibility as long as they stayed within the narrative restrictions.
Right.
To do 2 buildings or 4 or 6 or 5.
Exactly.
Would that come back through us?
And it doesn't,
No, it would just
because
have to.
just like the straight zoning, like if someone were to have C2 zoning, all that written narrative, it's all in our Unified Development Code. So when the plans come in, we refer to the plan, or to the UDC, to see, okay, what are the setbacks, what are the uses? So basically what he's doing is he's creating a planned district that establishes all those dimensional standards, the uses, and that's what would be referred to if it were to be approved by council, and they would be verified when the building plans come in.
And the use will still be PCD?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So is that a written thing that we would do, just come talk to you guys?
Yeah,
about?
the process would be asking for a site plan amendment. Now, depending on how much of a change, it may not be eligible for administrative review, and it may have to go back through the Planning and Zoning Commission and then City Council. But it sounds like to me that there's a desire by the surrounding neighbors for that original plan to stay in place, but you desire the flexibility for, some additional footprint or square footage. So this would give you that flexibility.
Is there any reason we couldn't approve that today?
I think the staff would need time to review what the proposal is. I mean,
Table it long enough for you all to work through it?
So do we deny the 6-2 and table it for him to come back, or?
So it's essentially, I'm sorry, I step on your, that's loud. Essentially what we do is, it would be amending the PCD site plan, or the PCD from a site plan to a written narrative. And so,
That'd be a different type of request, right?
Yeah, essentially it'd be a zone change, where you replace the narrative, or replace the site plan with the narrative. And, I mean, since it would be, this request here, the C2, it could be tabled and revised, I guess, to become a PCD amendment instead of a C2 zone change.
I think a denial may create some issues even if it was a different type of request for 6 months, and there's a time frame there, so we don't want to put that delay on there.
So it's tabled.
This stuff. Yeah, normally though, we're gonna see the actual narrative language that we would be the purpose.
So we
But
table
it would be next month.
30 days?
30 days long enough to be able to sort this out?
I'm sorry.
30 days?
Yeah,
32 days.
Mr. Loudon, how long do you believe that it would take for you to come up with a
Narrative.
site plan narrative?
Just a couple of days.
Okay.
Table it for 30 days.
She's on my payroll, so.
I think what we're trying to do is trying to find a way for you to have some flexibility you want, but at the same time constraining any future uses to what essentially you want to do anyway, which has been agreed upon by the neighbors.
Pressure if you want to do that.
Okay.
I mean, that's really the least time we can get it done, right? I mean,
Yeah. We won't have another meeting for 30 days. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, any other questions for city staff or any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table Z19-002 for 30 days.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Reed, a second from Mr. Dobbs to table this item for 30 days. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the item is tabled for 30 days. Thank you, Mr. Loudon, for your time and for your efforts. All right, next section is for plats. First item is F19-009, Marisco's DJ's Addition Final Plat.
This is a request for a 2-lot subdivision. This is located at the southeast intersection of East Irwin Street and Saleh Avenue. The purpose of the plat is to combine these lots into 2 lots, essentially create 2 lots to allow for the expansion of the DJ's restaurant. And staff, all comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of the plat.
Any questions for city staff? Anyone here would like to speak on this item for or against?
Make a motion we approve F19-009.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Reedy, a second from Mr. Reed to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Plat is approved. Next item is VP 19-001.
This was a request for a plat vacation to essentially revert 1 lot back into 2 lots. After reviewing the request, the staff the applicant has actually withdrawn their request, and so procedurally, we're gonna, we brought it here today to have it denied, and if they can make any adjustments later, they can reapply.
Okay. Any questions for city staff? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we deny VP 19-001.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Reed, a second from Mr. Swaim to deny this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is denied. Next item is F18-124.
This is another subdivision plat that actually will require a little bit more time to work on. The applicant has provided a waiver of their 30-day plat action requirement, so, and they're in agreement that we should table the plat for 30 days, and so the staff recommends tabling this plat for 30 days.
All right, any questions for city staff?
Kyle, what are they needing to work on?
They returned the revised layout to us last week. There wasn't enough time for staff to adequately review the revision of the plat, and so some other things. They also submitted HOA documentation that we have to have legal review, and they also requested a modification to their street jog. The code requires 200 feet, and so they want one smaller, but staff still needs to evaluate that and whether we can recommend that. So essentially it came down to there wasn't enough time to provide a recommendation for approval, so they agreed to give us more time to look at it.
Okay. Anyone here like to speak on this item?
Make a motion, we table F18-124.
Second.
30 days.
For 30 days?
For 30 days?
Okay.
All right, there is a motion from Ms. Reed, a second from Ms. Phoenix to table this item for 30 days. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is tabled for 30 days. Next section of our agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any need to review any of these items individually? All right. If that is the case, Chair will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent plats.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Phoenix, a second from Mr. Reed to approve the consent plat agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We stand in recess, and we'll start our work session across the street in 10 minutes.